What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers miraculously have won back-to-back games. 2 games in a row, Eric, as they beat the Pacers tonight for the second time this season by a final score of 118 to 115. This was a game where the two most talked about potential trade targets for the Blazers in Jerami Grant and Malcolm Brogdon both absolutely went off. Brogdon 30 points on 9 for 18 shooting, but Grant even better, 14 for 28. He had 37. He was taking it to the rack all night long, as were the Blazers. Only 5 3-point attempts in the first half was a season low of any team in the league. The Blazers were just attacking and attacking and attacking the soft Pacers defense. You had the debut for Pascal Siakam. He had an okay game, but he got thoroughly outplayed by Jerami Grant, which creates some interesting conversations about trades, considering Siakam just got dealt for 3 first-round picks. But the Blazers, 50% from the field, only make 4 threes in this game, but it doesn't matter because they get to the line 35 times. They just went downhill. 66 points in the paint for the Blazers to 66 points in the paint for the Blazers to 26 for the Pacers. So they more than double up Indiana in the paint. This was just an interesting game, and I'm looking forward to recapping it. Eric, how's it going, man? How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Hello, Tori. Hello, everyone in chat. Thanks for joining us. Blazers with their second straight sweep. I didn't think we'd sweep any team this season, except for maybe the Pistons after we won the first game there. But they've swept the Nets and now the Pacers. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, so a third of our wins this year have been against the Pacers or the Nets. And we only play those 2 teams twice, so it's kind of funny. I guess these are just the 2 teams that we're going to absolutely own this year. This game was quite unlike any other game this year in that the Blazers played physical without getting into too much foul trouble. I know they sent the Pacers to the line 25 times, but on shots around the rim, especially, verticality, this was maybe the best game of the year in terms of guys just going vertical around the rim and not fouling and deterring shots. You know, Ayton's back, so he kind of helps with that. I thought defensively, he was pretty good tonight when he wasn't leaving Miles Turner wide open from 3. But it was other guys on the team as well, man. And this game was maybe the most physical game of the season. I don't view Indiana as a physical team, but my goodness, these 2 teams were just physically abusing each other. They were going at each other. And the Blazers got the better end of that. I mean, the Pacers are a smaller, a little bit more finesse 3-point shooting team. The Blazers were able to out-physical them in this game. The defensive rebound had been better. Pacers only had 6 offensive boards to the Blazers 9. And, even got chippy there late with Jabari Walker a little bit, Aaron Nesmith a little bit, nothing too much. But this game was just fun from start to finish because the Blazers just seemed to want to drive straight down. I was going to word that in a way that was going to sound sus. But they just took it at them, and it was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, this was closer to what Chauncey had preached when he took over as coach, is that, as Mute That Bozo says in chat, it was scrappy. Yeah, it was I don't know, we played a style that seemed more like the style that Chauncey wanted to play. Mm-hmm. And we even got out and ran a little bit. Not necessarily fast breaks, but we were getting shots off early in the shot clock, which has not been the case most of this year. And so I felt like this game was more about how Chauncey should want to play, especially with the roster he has. And once again, it's a little confusing why we haven't seen that style more often, why we don't attack more often. Why we're not more physical and try to push the pace a little bit. But I'm happy to see it tonight.
Yeah, What's up, chat? Hopefully you guys are having a good night here on a Friday night, January 19th. We are halfway through the season. This was the 41st game, Blazers 12 and 29, on pace for 24 wins. But if you just take the last two games into account, they're on pace to win every game the rest of the year.
Tori, do you realize they're 7-6 against the East?
Yeah, they own the East, I guess. I guess we need to be relegated to the Eastern, the Eastern Conference.
And that includes blowing a 26-point lead to Dame and the Bucks.
Yeah. I mean, they've been competitive against Eastern Conference teams. The Western Conference teams have absolutely had the Blazers number. That means they're, 5 and 23 against the West.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild. Pretty wild stat there. But I don't know, where do you want to start with this game? It's hard to kind of figure out where to start. I mean, I guess we start with Jerami Grant. He has 37 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a couple of blocks, and a steal. He shoots 28 shots, Eric. Only 4 of them were threes. Legitimately, it's funny because we've moved Jerami to the 3. He's been starting at the 3 in the past couple of matchups, and it seems like he's even more confident at going downhill, 3 is more of a perimeter spot than maybe the 4 is, even though they're quite similar. It seems like he's taking advantage of having smaller guys on him, considering he's playing the 3 and trying to go at them, but at the same time, Siakam was on him for multiple possessions in this game, and Grant just went straight at him too. It didn't matter if it was Miles Turner, it didn't matter if it was Siakam, and this was kind of the attitude he had last game, and it's impressive. I've lamented the settle for mid-range shots Jerami Grant. He shot a few today, made a few, but he just made a concerted effort just to put his head down and go at guys, and had a couple of lob passes too going downhill to Deandre Ayton. One was DeAndre Ayton redirected it in, and one DeAndre Ayton freaking dunked the ball, which is awesome. But Jerami Grant throwing lob passes, a couple of lob passes, was something that I didn't expect to see today either. Gets to the line 11 times, hits 8 of those free throws, and I was just watching this game, especially the first half, and it's there's probably so many contenders that would love to have this type of production that Jerami Grant gave the Blazers tonight, and it's fun to watch it in a Blazer uniform, but it's we're having debates on Twitter, we're having debates amongst the fan base. Now that the trade deadline is less than 3 weeks away, we're having debates about, what a team would give up for Jerami Grant. I mean, if you just watched him today, that dude, you could make the argument that he should get the Pascal Siakam package. You could make the argument that he should get a better package than Pascal Siakam, considering he's not a free agent this offseason. He just dusted Pascal Siakam. So that's probably a little too optimistic, but man, I mean, this dude just looked like an absolute beast out on the floor tonight and looked like he was in a class of his own.
Yeah, real quick, this could be a smokescreen still. I don't think it is, though, but I was reiterated today, Grant will not be traded. They have no interest in moving him. So I don't know. I know that's going to disappoint you, Tori, but
I mean, that's just stupid. You literally took the good vibes right out of my heart.
Sorry, man. But as far as Grant's game tonight, yeah, I thought it was key that his aggressiveness, because Siakam getting in foul trouble and kind of spoiling his debut, he couldn't. It was what? There was somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter when he got his 5th foul, and they had to take him out for a little bit. And I don't think it was a coincidence that the Blazers, get up 10 or something at one point while he was on the bench. And so I think that was key. And then Brogdon did a nice job of being aggressive on Nesmith as well. Got him into foul trouble. He ended up fouling out. I thought that was one of the keys to this game, was the aggressiveness leading to 2 of their starters being taken out of the game at points. Yeah, agree. And let me just nip this in the bud real quick, because I'm starting to hear this. You guys said Grant could never play the small forward position. Statistically, in the past, Grant has been better at the power forward position. Now, he's played well enough these past couple of games that I kind of want to continue to see him at the small forward position. There's reasons why he had played better at the power forward position in the past, and we laid those out.
And statistically, like, that's just what the truth was. That wasn't even an opinion. This 2-game sample size has been mighty impressive, though. So, let's continue to see it then. And if we continue to see this level of production with him at the 3, it's kind of a deviation from what he's done in the past.
My thing is, like you mentioned when you started talking about it, like Siakam was guarding him the whole game. Why, like, is it really defined what position he played? Like, I don't necessarily think he plays like a small forward or a power forward. He's kind of like a mix of both. So, like, but, like, you have a power forward in there with Jabari, who plays like a center but is undersized. Like, I don't know. Like, is he a small forward? Is he a power forward? I don't know if it matters or really. But I'll say this again. The reason I was concerned about him playing small forward was the same reason that I was concerned about, like, in the bubble when we put Melo at small forward, and that was our big game plan when we lost Trevor Ariza to the opt-out. It's like the Blazers tonight, they got away with it once again because he ends up starting Thybulle at the 2 and Brogdon's at the 1, so we're not undersized. We don't have any kind of defensive backcourt thing that we have to worry about, so everyone can kind of guard their natural positions, whereas normally our 3-man has to take on a lot more responsibility at the point of attack, and I hate having Jerami at the point of attack on defense. So that's the reason why I don't want him at the 3 with our normal lineups. But tonight it's fine. But I still would venture to say that like, I don't think that's necessarily like traditional positions or whatever anymore. I don't think you can just pigeonhole that into one thing. And a guy like Tobias Harris on Philly has also traditionally been much better at the power forward, and this year for some reason is playing better at small forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are small forward. It depends on matchups and how you're used and how you play with the players on the court with you. And so yeah, I don't think it really matters. But Jabari is rebounding, and his hustle out there, to me, feels like a good way to get away with Jerami playing the 3 and to have him play like this at the 3.
Yeah, you just have to pair him next to a good rebounding forward.
Right.
Regardless of position. So if it's Josh Hart at the 3 and Grant at the 4, it can work rebounding-wise. Mm-hmm. If it's we don't have a small forward that can rebound like that. So at this point, it's you got Jabari Walker is maybe the best forward rebounder on this team, and that's the pairing that works in terms of controlling defensive glass, and that's why you look at I mean, they gave up only 6 offensive rebounds tonight. That's pretty good, especially for a team that shoots a lot of threes and plays fast. It's I don't know what their offensive rebounding is on the season. I don't think it's that great, but it's a lot of long misses and harder to box out against a team that plays in transition too. So this is like the type of team that I feel like would have had a decent offensive rebounding night simply because we don't box out. We turn and go to the rim, so those long misses go over our heads a lot, as well as just how bad we are in transition. We struggle to match up, and we struggle to match up in this game as well. I thought our half-court defense was great. I thought the transition defense was much worse, at least in the first half. Cleaned up a little bit in the second half, but 6 offensive rebounds, and you can look at Jabari. He had 12 rebounds. He played 41 minutes, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Can you imagine saying heading into the season that Jabari would be getting 41 minutes a game in a game that we beat an Eastern Conference playoff team in?
Yeah, I mean, that's legit. So Jabari's a fun guy. He plays hard. He has an edge to him, and he plays physical, and I think that's why in a game like this, like, we look more physical. Is you got him out there, he's bodying people off boards, he defends, like he gives us an edge we need. Yeah, getting technicals on
roughhousing.
That's not a technical, bro. You can't raise his arm 2 inches when he has a dude draped all over him. Like, all right, it's just ridiculous.
That vicious elbow he threw.
God. Since you mentioned it, later on in the stream, I'm going to have to rant about what is hopefully a smokescreen. Okay? So I'm not going to do it yet because we won, but I like winning this post-game stream, like feeling all good, and then you just toss that my way, and it's like kind of changed my mood, man.
Sorry, man.
No, it's fine. I mean, we'll talk about it, but there were some good things from this game that we got to talk about. Scoot plays 8 minutes. He has 10 points and then gets hurt. His nose gets hurt. He did have a couple of turnovers, but had 4 very impressive finishes. 4 for 4 from the field. We talked about like his inefficiency, true shooting percentage. I wanted to see him continue to play this game because he's had games where he's like hit his first couple of shots and then like the efficiency tapered off throughout the game.
His debut in Summer League.
Yeah, exactly. And, he had that game, I think it was the road game against OKC, where he had 2 buckets on, like, the first couple of possessions, and then I forget what he shot in the game, but, I mean, the whole team was terrible, so it was probably pretty bad, because they had 77 points. But so I was curious to see how he was going to, like, follow up his first 8 minutes in this game. It's kind of a shame he got hit on the face and has a nose contusion.
Nasal contusion.
Yeah, like, it's just kind of a shame because he started off this game really well, and I wanted to see if he could, like, truly have a efficient night on some sort of volume, because he hasn't really had a above 50% shooting percentage from the field on more. I think he's only had 1 game this year, and it was on 5 shots? I don't really recall, but it was on a lower shot volume. So I want to see him have a game where he's like 6 for 10, 7 for 13. A game like that where you can look at it and say, you know what, he got his shots up, but he actually made a good percentage of them and had an efficient night. And he was on his way starting 4 for 4. So shame he got hurt, but it was a good 8-minute stretch for him.
The question is, Tori, will Scoot wear his goggles over his face mask next game that he'll be wearing? No, I don't know.
I kind of wonder.
Build it into it.
I mean, well, the face mask, doesn't that act like goggles in a... Well, I guess the eye holes are supposed to be open. I don't know. Is he ever going to stop wearing the goggles? Like, it's so he doesn't mess with his contacts because he had new contacts, but he's had the goggles for like 2 months, so the contacts aren't really new anymore. So is it just a comfort thing? Like, I just can't imagine playing in goggles and, like, being able to be the same level of locked in, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Or being able to,
seems like a gimmick, yeah.
Yeah, like peripheral vision, those don't mess it up at all? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he's got such good peripheral vision, it doesn't matter. Eyes in the back of your head, right?
Yeah, he sees through the siding of the goggles.
Yeah.
Because I wore a face mask once, broke my nose. I actually broke my nose twice. The second time it was in college, and I just like pretended like I didn't and kept playing. So my nose is still a little crooked from it. But first time I did, I tried playing with that face mask, man, and it was like messing up my vision so bad. It was brutal. So I never understand how people play with something on their face. It kind of gives them the 80s aura though, with the he just looks like he's out of the 80s with those goggles, man.
It looks more like a... Remember how I forgot who deemed him this, but it was someone said like Dennis Smith Jr. plays like a washed 40-year-old power forward or something, and like Scoot just like took that reign with the goggles and the just his look and stuff, but not necessarily his play. But yeah, I was
hopefully not his play.
Yeah, outside the turnovers, I thought Scoot was really good in this game. And like you said, I really wanted to see how he continued it on throughout this one. Unfortunately, it kind of sucks having a game where we don't have Anthony, Shaden, or Scoot to watch develop. But I'm happy he had at least a positive stretch that he can build on, hopefully, when he comes back. I'm not sure if it's going to hold him out for a game or not, but hopefully he's back next game and building on it.
Yeah, so other guys that played, I mean, you got Ayton in his return, 6 for 15. He did have 8 boards in 30 minutes, like, okay. Defensively, I thought Ayton was good for the most part. There was too many plays, though, where he left Miles Turner wide open from 3. Turner goes 6 for 10 from 3, and it's like, wow, why is he shooting so good? But especially at the start of the game, like Ayton was just standing in the paint like 20 feet off Miles Turner. It's like you got to know who you're playing against, especially when he's been in the league for as long as he has. I know Miles Turner has been in the opposite conference as him, but that's just like you got to know your personnel. He comes out in the game, he leaves him wide open from three. It kind of baffled me. But in terms of like protecting the rim, he was good. Like I thought effort level was good. So like I think overall his defense was pretty solid. It's just when you're playing against a stretch five, you have to realize you're playing against a stretch five, especially after he starts hitting some threes.
Yeah. Yeah, that also annoyed me when he left Turner towards the end of the game wide open. But yeah, I thought after not playing for a while, it's good. I did see him. I don't know if you noticed this at the towards the end of the game in a timeout. He seemed like he was grimacing or something, like his knee was bothering him.
I noticed during the game that he like was acting a little gimpy.
Yeah, so hopefully
it was after a play where he jumped. I think it was maybe for like one of his lobs or something. It was after a play where he jumped. So
yeah, hopefully he's just sore from not playing much lately, but something to maybe monitor going forward. Hopefully it's not something where I think they just need the players that are not hurt seriously to just be in the lineup and be consistent right now. And so like that's been part of the problem with the season is players like in and out of the lineup. And you can't really establish roles or consistency that way. So hopefully it's not anything that'll make him miss, every few games or something moving forward because, short of a miracle trade, I mean, we are going to be having to talk about Ayton as a Blazer for a while, I think. So we do need him to play consistently, in my opinion.
Oh man, you're trying to bait me into talking about the trades that I rant about, but you're fine. No, you're fine. I'm like biting my tongue.
I mean, you know, he's not gonna get moved. So
no, I don't.
You think he's gonna get moved?
There's a chance he gets moved.
Okay.
At least that's what I heard.
I
know you hear things, Mr. Brantbaum, but I will hear an occasional thing here and there.
I honestly have not heard anything like definitive like I have with Grant.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything definitive on it either, but I mean, there's legitimately a chance. Like, he has not played well in Portland. He has not given them what they thought they were getting. If they thought they were getting an inefficient center who's giving them 12, 13 points per game, and the defense wasn't going to be that much better, like, they probably don't trade for him on a max contract. Like, and I've been saying this all season, like, you willingly bring in a guy on a max contract, you're probably expecting better production than what he's giving you. I mean, you can make the argument this is the worst year in the league. Like, statistically, there's definitely a case for that. So, I don't think they've gotten necessarily the returns that they've wanted, and then he's banged up, no fault of his own, but I don't think they're married to him at all. So the main reason why they wouldn't be able to trade him is nobody would want that contract. Like, they could be 100% stuck with that contract, but I can't sit here and rule out a possibility that they trade him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ruling it out. I just think they're going to be stuck with him for a while.
Nathan says, go source for source. Yeah, we should. I need to work on getting more intel so I can go head to head with Eric. That would be entertaining.
I'm trying to tone it down and give less information.
Well, you just said
I know.
info dumped on me.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, that was I don't the Ayton thing wasn't necessarily the normal thing, but
I'll say this: I don't expect Ayton to get traded, but you can't rule it out. You can't come close to ruling it out.
I mean, Yeah, the Grant thing though, I've been pretty consistent with that. Like I said, it could be a smokescreen. This could just be to maximize his value, but I think his play on the court is doing a good job of that anyway. But
I mean, oh God, do I start ranting now, chat, or do I like say nice things about Chris Murray because
let's
I
talk
thought
about Chris Murray
played
first.
well? Like,
yeah.
I mean, Chris Murray, the stat line's not going to be super impressive. He played 14 minutes. He had 5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 turnovers. Right, the 3 turnovers is bad. But he had a 3.
It was a really bad turnover.
Yeah, like for somebody that doesn't really create, he cannot be turning over the ball 3 times. So he has to clean that up. But everything else, like he hits a 3. That drive and little left-hand floater was nice. Used his body, bumped the guy off, and went up with it. Like that was a nice move. I was most impressed with some of his help side defense, though, some of his backside defense, because the Blazers were basically switching everything, and it looked like a matchup zone in the first half, where like guys would cross and it wouldn't even be a screen, and they'd switch. So the Blazers were putting themselves into positions where like Scoot Henderson was having to front Miles Turner, guard Miles Turner. And if you're going to do that and switch into mismatches, you have to have good help around the rim when you have a point guard on a center. And there was a couple of times where I was really impressed with Chris Murray like rotating to the backside help spot because Scoot's fronting Miles Turner. The pass over the top is there. And he was just in the right position for the most part the entire time he was in the game defensively, which you can rarely say that about a Portland Trailblazer. Most of the time it's guys like wildly out of position. Like, you know, it goes all the way to guys like Thybulle, who I've lamented lately, and there was a play in the first half, Eric, I don't know if you saw it, where he was one pass away guarding a guy in a quarter, and he was like 20 feet off of him. Maybe it was more like 15, but he was just so far off him. It was TJ McConnell, and then he closes out hard to TJ McConnell, who's not a three-point shooter, and lets him beat him baseline for a layup. Like, it was just awful positioning, and that's Matisse Thybulle. Like, he's the guy who's made an all-defensive team. So Chris Murray, I thought, was just positionally sound defensively, and it's part of the reason why they were good with the bench lineup. Like, Reith was a plus 18, Camara was a plus 11, Chris Murray was a plus 8, Scoot was a plus 8, you know? They got done offensively. They shot the ball well as a unit, but defensively, like, Toumani, Chris, those guys did a good job rotating when their help was needed and being in the right position, and it's impressive considering they're both rookies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was another key to this game. Our bench, just some quick math, but Scoot was 4 for 4, Dwop was 1 for 1, Chris 2 for 2. I mean, that's 7 for 7.
Yeah,
and
then was 1 for 3, so that's 8 for 10, 80%.
8 for 10. Meanwhile, you look at their bench and you see 0 for 3, 2 for 5, 1 for 4, 0 for 8, 1 for 4.
And they got a good bench. They got Mathurin, who was 0 for 8.
Yeah, he was terrible tonight, and that was the big reason they lost as well as his no-show after a great game last night. But yeah, Toppin didn't do anything. I think maybe, I mean, we know Jarvis Walker already is not playing on this team, but now you get Siakam, and you have guys like Toppin and Jalen Smith who are playing really well this season and now are going to have limited roles, and one of them might be out of the rotation at some point when they condense it down. But going from playing big minutes to spot minutes and sharing minutes at the backup power forward, I don't know if that's going to really work out for them. I know Jalen Smith played some backup center tonight, but that's something to look at. They just have way too many power forward type guys now. And they still have Healed as well, so they could still be making some other moves.
They still got another power forward that can maybe play on some teams than Isaiah Jackson.
Yeah, right. So
I don't know. Is Jackson hurt?
He's not on their. I think he might be hurt because he's not listed on there as like a coach's.
Yeah, he was out with a concussion. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's playing 14 minutes a game. Played 33 games this year. He's averaging 7 points per game in those 14 minutes, bro. Like he's just athletic. like small ball center who's like athleticism helps him play bigger. He can play some forward, not really much of a shooter, but he's a guy that, like, if he's available for extremely cheap because of logjam there, he wouldn't be a bad guy to take a flyer on because he's been productive when he's played throughout basically his entire career, shooting 69% from 2 this year, getting 4 rebounds in those 14 minutes, pretty good rate, 7 points. Like, when we talk trades, like, the best trades outside of just getting value back for players would be trying to identify young players that maybe need a little bit more opportunity where you can get them because they haven't had a chance to show out yet, and then hoping you bring them in and they start doing something, right? So that type of archetype, maybe it's not an Isaiah Jackson because he's not super skilled, but that type of archetype is the type that interests me heading up to the trade deadline.
Like Naz Reid a couple years ago.
Yeah, like Naz Reid a couple years ago. And look at Naz Reid now. He's probably the best backup center in the league. At least the best backup center that's healthy because Robert Williams III is hurt. So, anyway, you're saying? Okay,
I was just saying, like, so tonight, I thought, one of the keys, like I mentioned, was getting 2 of their starters in foul trouble.
Yeah.
And that included one of the quarters. We were in the penalty with like 10 minutes left, which is crazy. And we took advantage of it. We didn't just let that go to waste, as you mentioned, with the 30-some free throw attempts. But the bench is Portland's didn't play a ton, but I felt like the limited minutes they outplayed the Pacers bench, and that was impressive tonight. And one of the big reasons why we won, in my opinion.
Yep.
Their bench was terrible.
Yep. So that's something that I didn't have on the bingo card today. The Blazers bench outplaying theirs, especially given some of the injuries.
Short-handed, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why they won, quite honestly, because the starters, for the most part, got outscored. Like, every Pacers starter was a +6 or better. Like, Siakam was a +17. So if you want any solace as a Pacers fan, in the 14 minutes without Siakam on the floor, they got outscored by 20 points in those 14 minutes. With Siakam on the floor, they outscored the Blazers by 17. So, they bring in Siakam. It's his debut. He hasn't practiced with the team yet. Doesn't know the sets, even though a lot of NBA teams run similar stuff, so it's not a super hard transition. But, he's brand new. And the lineups with him on the floor tonight were productive. It wasn't anything to do with him. It was the bench just awful. They combined to shoot 4 for 24. The bench did.
Yeah,
4 for 24. That's what? Like 16%?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because that's 1/6. That's 16%. 16.6%. Yeah, that's awful. That's terrible. That's disgusting. So, good job, Blazers bench. Well done. Any other players you want to talk about?
I don't know if we want to talk about Toumani at all, but I guess we should. He's really been struggling lately. Maybe it's just hitting a rookie wall or something. And I don't know if maybe coming off the bench is affecting him or, that kind of stuff.
I don't think he was that bad tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't bad. I just think, I don't know, he just doesn't look the same as he did for a stretch earlier in the season. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. Like, I think he just seems to be a little bit. Teams are kind of taking advantage of when he's on the floor, basically just leaving him open. It's a good learning experience because if he can learn how to attack that being wide open, either attacking closeouts or improving his three-point shot or something, I think that's a good experience if he can solve it. But as long as he continues to be just left wide open and he just stands in the corner, I think it's going to be a little bit of an issue for the offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing is his three-point shot. And I'm expecting him to continue to struggle until he has a full off season to work with, an NBA shooting coach or NBA-level trainer. Like, he needs to go to the best shooting coach in the world. Like, if he could shoot threes at 35-36%, he'd be dangerous, These guys wait for him at the rim, and then he doesn't know what to do. Like, he had a really nice finish. That left-hand hang and extend, that finish was good. It was nice. And then he had another drive after that where he kind of jumped into the shot blocker's chest and missed because of it. Like, he needs some nuance to his game offensively. It's knocking down threes, and it's like being able to shoot a floater if guys are just waiting for him at the rim, because he just kind of goes and tries to like contort around guys, and it makes it really tougher than a floater would be if he was comfortable shooting a floater. I just think the floaters I have seen him shoot, he short arms them. So I think he needs to work on his form shooting floaters, actually. So his shooting form from three, I think is fine. I don't really know why he misses so many shots, but you got to find what the inconsistencies are with his form. Even though it looks smooth up close, there's probably an inconsistency there, whether it's, the way the ball comes off his fingertips, the way he pushes his fingers through the ball. I don't know what it is, but there's a reason why some guys' forms look the same every time and look good, but then the results aren't consistent. So that's something for him. Because on TV, like, his form looks fine. His form looks as good as basically anybody else's on the team. So,
Cole, we're talking about Toumani Camara.
Yeah, we're talking about Toumani. But, like, defensively today, I don't think he was bad at all.
Yeah. I think his finishing is really hit or miss. Sometimes he has those finishes, like you said, where he wraps around someone. It's like, how do you stop that? Like, he could get to those shots over just about any player in the league. And then other times it's like he just looks completely uncoordinated and like he shouldn't be shooting at all. Just trying to find a go-to shot in those situations. I think, like you said, a floater would also open up to then when teams start accounting for that, then you can get to the rim maybe more often. He needs some sort of go-to in those situations that he feels comfortable with 100% of the time.
I mean, I think it's just when he can't get past the last line of defense, he doesn't know what to do. That left-hand finish he had, like, he was past his defender, like he had a step on his defender and there was no rim protector, so he could extend towards the backboard. That's different than if you're going downhill and you have somebody rotate over as a rim protector and you're trying, like, you can't score around them, so that's like you got to score over them, and he's not good at, like, loading up and using his body yet to, like, jump into rim protectors and finish. So that's where, like, the nuance comes in, and that's where you hope that, even though he's an older rookie, that there could be some level of development there. Because if he can knock down threes and then attack closeouts and attack the rim and finish well, then he's a dangerous player. I mean, that's the thing with, like, Mo Harkless is Mo Harkless would always find ways to kind of weasel his way to the rim and finish at some weird angles and he dunked the ball a lot. I think Toumani should try and dunk the ball more.
Exactly.
He goes downhill with guys, but, like, that's a good guy to hopefully learn from him. And you look at Harkless, like, Harkless was always an inconsistent three-point shooter, but he had a couple of seasons where he shot the ball well. His rookie year, he shot the ball terribly. So I think Harkless long-term is actually a pretty good comparison for Camara. Harkless came into the league much younger, but that's, if Camara can be that level, that caliber of role player, maybe a little bit better as a shooter, hopefully, a little bit more consistent, like, fingers crossed. He's not there yet, but maybe in the next couple of years he can get to being a consistent 35-36%er, then you got a really good role player on your hands. I mean, Harkless, for all his flaws, he was a starter on a team that made the Western Conference Finals. He was a starter on a team that got multiple 3 seeds. So if you can get that out of a guy that was the 52nd pick in last year's draft, that is an absolute win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I forgot to mention something with Scoot. He had a layup today that I think was something that I've been looking for, Eric. And you remember, like, coming into the league, how I said he struggled playing off of 2 feet? Mm-hmm. And he had a finish today where he drove right and then went into like a right-left plant and went up strong, shielding the ball with his left shoulder, and went up with his right hand and finish. And it was a finish off 2 feet, and it was just something that I've been looking for him lately.
Was that the reverse or the?
No, it was one of his other finishes. The reverse was nice, but we've seen him shoot the reverse.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen him shoot that all year long, but he had I don't know, you know, if it was his second or third finish, but he had a finish where he just played it right.
Oh,
left.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been looking for. Him playing off of 2 feet, I think, will be better, because a lot of times when he goes up off one, he gets like stuck trying to contort at really weird angles and just it just doesn't work. Whereas when he goes off 2, he's a little more like stable, and he can use his body a little bit better to shield the ball from shot blockers to finish. So I like that finish from him.
Yeah. I think the only other player we haven't really talked about too much other than that one play is Matisse. What do you think of his game tonight?
I mean, she just had a couple good defensive plays. Like, he had 2 blocks and a steal. Outside of that, the defense wasn't impressive. He played 28 minutes and shot twice. Like, it was 0 for 1 from 3. It was a minus 14. He's just not good. Like, his 3-point ball has improved, but he's just like an okay 3-point shooter, and at least this season is an okay defender. And that's it. I don't want to really talk bad about him. Like, personally, I like him a lot. Like, seems like a cool guy, you know? But in terms of his game, like, I don't know. I've never really been impressed. I'm happy that he's shooting the 3-ball better, but it's
starting to come down, though.
Yeah, 37%. Like, if it was more consistent defensively, that'd be great. But he just, even when he became a Blazer, I felt like he was more solid right after he got traded here. I just feel like his defense has regressed, just like his shooting has improved.
Yeah, well, a lot of players regress defensively when they come here.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the perfect play is the perfect example is TJ McConnell's 1 bucket today.
Mm-hmm.
Chat, you can go on NBA.com, go to the box score, and they will link clips based on stats. So if you go to TJ McConnell field goals made and you click on the 1, you will see what play I was talking about if it actually plays, because right now it's not playing for me. So but it's just a play where he's just out of position. He's just not in good enough position numerous times, and he gets beat off the dribble, mainly because he has to close out from weird angles, because he'll be so many steps up the floor trying to play a passing lane.
Yep.
So anyway, it's kind of like Rocco was, man.
Yep.
It's kind of like Rocco
exactly.
was. The thing is, like, Rocco wasn't really a good on-ball defender. He was supposed to be like a great off-ball defender. But his first season in Portland, he was good defensively. Off-ball, he was really good defensively. And then his second season in Portland, he got too steal-hungry and overplayed way too much and was just constantly out of position, especially 1 pass away. Like, 1 pass away, you're supposed to be in denial. At the very least, you're supposed to be close enough to your guy where if they catch the ball, they're not getting a shot off that's not heavily contested.
Mm.
Rocco, his second season, his last season in Portland, and Thybulle, 1 pass away, they play so far off or so far towards the ball that they're just not there on the catch. For when their guy catches the ball, they're not there. So it's just literally swing pass, shot, or swing pass, and then they close out too hard, and it's a drive.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, and it's kind of frustrating when I'd much rather just have a solid rotator / positional defender that fits within a team defensive scheme than someone who gambles and then throws the whole defensive rotation off.
Yep, 100%. So let me thank a donation from King with a $1 donation. Appreciate you, King. And shout out to Nathan Foley, member for 12 months, says Jake Lehman. Yes, that's who we need right now. We need Jake Lehman. Shout out to Smog, member for 36 months. He has the 3-year member badge. You love to see it. He says 5 firsts for Grant, Brogdon, Thybulle. You're getting a little too ambitious there, Smog. A little too ambitious.
Is he, though?
Yes.
You said at the beginning of the show that Grant might be worth the Siakam package.
I mean, based on tonight, yeah, just based on tonight, but trades aren't just based on tonight. I mean, in the best case scenario, you could maybe get 3 firsts for Grant, but you're not getting more than 1 for Brogdon. Yeah, and it's not going to be 3 good ones. You're not getting more than 1 for Brogdon. I don't think you're getting 1 for Thybulle.
Maybe. We need a desperate team.
Hart went for a late first and filler last season. Hart is a much better player than Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just based on that alone, I don't think Thybulle goes for a first. I'd love to be wrong. But who knows if they even try and trade him. I mean, at this point, Eric, Brogdon might be the only guy gone. We're just sitting here like paying these veterans a ton of money when we're starting a rebuild. So that's
I think this is going to shock you, Tori, but Randy Powell once again disagrees with something you're talking about.
Of course he always does. What did he say?
Every single thing we say he disagrees with. I don't know. He says, I love how you cracked the code on why an all-defensive player is bad on defense.
I mean, what does that even mean?
He's trying to say that, like, you're the only one who thinks, or we're the only ones that think Matisse isn't that great on defense and that he is an elite defender and we're just stupid.
I'm reading a lot into it. I don't know. I will give him the benefit of the doubt, even though he always
it's 100% what he said.
I mean, yeah, like.
But once again, you can't.
I bring up examples, specific examples from
what
games.
Tori's saying. You're just saying generically, he's an all-defensive player, so he must be good at defense. There's no way you can ever criticize him because, yeah.
I mean, I'll continue to bring up specific possessions from games as examples. I mean, I even look at the stats, like, yes, when he gets a steal, when he gets a block, it's impressive. I went into it last post-game show. It's only on like 5% of possessions where he gets a block or a steal. What about the other 95% of possessions? Aeromancer, you can't live and die by EPM, bro. That's why you gotta watch games. Because I assume EPM probably overvalues steals or blocks in some way. Like, it's hard to quantify defense with a number. It's easier to quantify offense with numbers. So, as far as defense goes, like, how much is his EPM hurt when he's out of position and somebody scores an open 3 that he's not even defending, but was his guy? Like, that's the problem with advanced defensive stats. They're super noisy. So,
and tonight we have Ayton back, so we have. I mean, it's still not great, but we have a little bit better player back there to protect the rim than at least Reith or whoever he had been playing with. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I think he can still be a good defender in the right system that makes up for his gambling, but not this one.
Nope, not this one. Steve J says I was at the game tonight. This was one of the best games. Yeah, I mean they played competitively, man. Like, they played pretty hard, the hardest they've played in a while. Played physical. Took it to the Indiana Pacer defense. Like, they did get a little bit ISO heavy, but the thing is, if you're gonna get ISO heavy, like, attack then, And they attacked. Like, Brogdon and Grant took it to the Pacers defense. I hate ISO ball when it's like you're just going to dribble around for 6 seconds and then you're going to shoot a mid-range contested jumper. Like, that's just bad offense. If you're giving it to a guy and he's just like taking it to the rim every time and getting there and scoring, collapsing the defense, like getting to the line, a little more acceptable, It's better. It's better offense. So I was happy with how aggressive Grant was attacking the rim tonight. And that's what I was saying earlier in the season when he kind of got jumper happy from the mid-range. Like, I just want him to attack. I don't want him to settle. He's athletic. He can finish really well. Like, he had a left hand, like, fade away finish, like, with a defender draped on his hip that somehow went in. Like, some of his finishes are kind of amazing for a guy of his size to finish. So, very happy with that.
A lot of people are talking about how they want to see Repair play, but that's one of the reasons why we want to trade Thybulle, right?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'd play Mania instead, considering Mania played over Repair in this game.
I know.
I don't get it, dude. I don't understand it. Shout out to PDX Papermaker, member for 20 months, says, here's a heart for each win with 12 heart emojis. Thanks, Carson. Appreciate you. But yeah, I don't know. People say Thybulle's like a disruptor on defense. E-Ray and Chaz saying Thybulle is definitely a disruption. He can be, and he can also be really bad when he's wildly out of position trying to be disruptive on defense. The thing is against worse teams, he's probably going to be a little bit more of a problem. Against better teams that know how to exploit that, he's going to be a subpar defender because they'll find ways to exploit that. Better teams take advantage of that sort of defense. So, yeah, I'm not impressed with Thybulle. I think he's this year he's an okay defender. The thing is, he's supposed to be much better than an okay defender. So, I'm going to criticize it. Like, if I don't know, like if Anthony Simons was defending like this, given that he does a ton offensively and the expectations are much lower for his defense, like, I'm not going to be as critical because his role is to be an offensive star caliber player, to draw the defense, pass the ball out of double teams, shoot the ball. It's everything on the offensive end. Matisse Thybulle's main role is to be a defender. So context is a little different.
I almost think they want him playing the way he is, though. Like they'd almost rather have him gamble because their defense is so bad anyway. Might as well try to create some sort of turnovers.
I mean, that's just, you're gonna get me into a rant about just the mindset and how bad it is regarding the coaching then, because you want to teach your guys good habits. Even if they're bad defensively, you're rebuilding. So you want to teach your guys how to be sound and fundamentally solid on defense.
Yeah.
You don't go there and then be like, Thybulle, just run around the court and see if you can get the ball.
Yeah. But it almost seems like that's how they play him. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, with the way Rocco played his last season here, under Chauncey, maybe that's what they were having Rocco do too. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe that's a Chauncey problem more than it is a Thybulle problem. That could absolutely be the case. I mean, but that's just silly. Like, if you're trying to win, maybe that's the best option for winning, I guess. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. But when you're trying to develop, you just want to teach your guys how to be fundamentally solid. Like, and you want a guy like Thybulle to be an example of how to be fundamentally solid and positionally solid. You don't want Thybulle to be out of position most of the time and break down the defense. Like, so I just don't like that from a development standpoint.
Okay, says now I can't blame Chauncey. He doesn't have his guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what exactly it is. I just know he's out of position a lot because that's what I see. Like,
did you see what Randy Powell said?
What did he? Oh man!
If you want to watch Repair play, G League games are on YouTube TV most of the time.
I want to see. Okay, sorry for the confusion. I want to see Ryan Repair play NBA minutes. I want to see him play in the NBA. I want to develop him at the NBA level. He's a few years away from being like a potentially good NBA player, but I think I like Repair, man. I like Repair as a prospect. He's a project, but I think he can truly be something. So we're probably going to be tanking at the end of the year anyway. I would like to see him play. I would like to develop him. Because I truly think he can become a problem as a guy that can knock down threes, handle the ball a little bit, play make a little bit, and play really good defense. Like that's the idea of Ryan Rupert.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already showing flashes of the shot. So,
like Taylor said, I think going down to the remix was good for him, just to get some run. But now I think he needs to apply that to the NBA roster. And it's still this mindset I feel like some people have. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but like I feel like people are saying, "Oh, you can't play repair because we're trying to win or something," and like, but that's not what the point of playing repair is. So like, it doesn't really matter if we win or lose these games. What we want to see is if Ryan can be a Thybulle type piece eventually, and then we could get something for Thybulle in a trade, and then we have like a replacement guy that we can groom to be the next Thybulle, hopefully.
Yeah.
But like I'd rather like find out what we have in guys like that or what he needs to work on moving into future seasons so he can, if he's got a good work ethic, like it seems like he has, he's going to go out and apply the things he learned from this season to his off-season workouts. And then those get ramped up to a specific program designed to improve the things he needs to improve on, just like what you were saying with Toumani earlier in the shooting. And so I think that's invaluable for those guys to get that experience and then to head into the offseason knowing exactly what they need to do to carve out a role in the NBA.
Yep.
John says Repair might be getting better coaching on the remix. Now that might be true, maybe, but I mean they practice at the same facility, so I think it's kind of mixed. So I think you get a little bit of both, but in game definitely is different if you watch the remix play.
Yeah. So we're an hour into the show. I think it's about time.
Yeah.
That. I go on a little bit of a rant about what you said earlier in the stream. You know, it's a win, but we still will have a rant for you guys tonight.
Sorry, guys. Or you're welcome to those.
Or you're welcome. I don't know. Yeah. Who knows? Some people hate it. Some people will agree with it and respect it. But I mean, so earlier in the season, you know, you're reiterating it might be a smokescreen, but you just want to repeat what you said earlier that it kind of has me going a little bit.
Yeah, I was reiterated today that Grant is not available in trades and that they are, at this point, planning on keeping him.
Yeah. You know what that says to me? That says to me they don't really have a plan for how they want to go about this rebuild.
That surprise you?
No, it doesn't. But that's legitimately what it says to me. Like, oh, we can keep him and then figure out the rest later is basically their mindset. Or we can keep him and hopefully we'll be good soon enough to, like, have him contribute to a winning team. They just started a rebuild. Their window is far into the future. Jerami Grant's going to turn 30 in a month and a half. Okay, so if the plan was to trade him this offseason like people are trying to tell me, then why wouldn't they listen to offers now? If this is true, Eric, which it might be a smokescreen, but if it's true, where they're not even interested in hearing offers, I don't expect them to trade him in the offseason. Because why wouldn't you at least listen now when you're probably going to sit him the last month of the season to tank anyway? So you might as well trade him at the trade deadline just for that reason alone. But then also, like, teams are going to want this dude for a playoff push. The NBA is pretty wide open right now. You got a lot of buyers. You should be able to get a pretty good bidding war going for Jerami Grant. Especially with his production this year. Like, I think the Blazers could fetch back a really good package for Jerami Grant. If they're not even interested in listening to offers, That says to me that they want to keep him long term. But that also says to me that they don't have any idea what their window is because it's far enough into the future where it doesn't make sense to keep Jerami Grant long term because he's going to be a diminishing asset by the time they're finally ready to start trying to make a play-in or a playoffs. Which is, in my opinion, 3 years from now. He's going to be 33. If anything, he's going to be worse than he is right now. I'd rather cash in at full value, maybe even get a team to overpay for him because that's the way the market is shaping up. At least that's what you listen to. If they're not even interested in listening to offers, it just says to me that they don't have a plan at all. Randy Powell says teams are trying to give up 2024 picks and they already have 2 good ones in the draft. That's not true. You can get future picks. Every team has future picks. The Blazers have the asset that other teams want, which is Jerami Grant. Okay? You can sit there and say, give us a 2025 first instead, or give us a 2026 first. Or guess what? You could even take back 2024 picks and then on draft night probably trade it for future picks. We've seen it multiple times where a team will trade, the 11th pick or the 13th pick for a couple future firsts. So you don't have to be married to those picks either. It's just all about asset accumulation. And not even being willing to listen to offers to Jerami Grant just says to me that they don't have a plan because their plan was supposedly to rebuild. But that's not something you do as a rebuilding team with a 30-year-old.
I mean, I don't think their plan was ever to be fully rebuild.
But that's the problem, Eric. They're married to being in the middle.
I know. I'm not saying
I'm not yelling at you. It pisses me off. I want to get out of the middle. I don't want to be stuck in the middle again. That's my biggest fear out of this whole painful process where we're in the lottery like 3, 4, 5 years in a row, however many years it's going to be, and then we're not good enough to contend, and we're stuck in the middle. And we're sitting there as like a 6 seed with a 34-year-old Jerami Grant saying like, oh man, like we can't trade him for anything now. And I wish we traded him for all the value we could have gotten back a few years ago where we could be in a better position right now. I have a feeling that there's a legitimate chance that that's what we're feeling in like 3 to 4 years.
Also, I'd like to point out, for the record, Golden State, Sacramento, Los Angeles Lakers, Miami Heat, Philadelphia 76ers,
Dallas Mavericks.
Did
you name the Kings?
Kings? Yes, I did. That's just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
None of those teams have a 2024 draft pick. All would be interested in Jerami Grant. So how are these teams only offering 2024 picks when none of those teams I just mentioned all would be interested in Grant and not a single one of them, Randy Powell, has a 2024 first-round pick they could trade? And that's just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others that don't as well.
Yeah, but they got future picks. Like, you can get an unprotected future pick on top of some extra stuff on top of that even. You got the upside of potentially the number 1 pick in the draft down the line. Now, there's some downside, but this rebuild needs as many upside chances and assets to accumulate talent as possible for the window that we're going to be competitive in. Instead, it's like, yeah, we're just going to keep the guy who's about to turn 30 and at some point is going to start declining due to age. 5 years from now, is Grant even going to be in the league? 35 probably, as like a bench player maybe. Like, maybe he can still be a star, but he's going to be 35. And his type of game isn't one that's going to be like immune to the effects of aging. Right? Like some players' games, like he relies on his quickness and athleticism to score the ball, to drive to the rim a lot. Like, at some point, he's going to be a guy that struggles to beat players off the dribble and ends up settling for a lot of contested mid-range jumpers even more because he can't get to the rim at the same rate. And then he becomes inefficient, right? Like, I don't know. I like his game. He's a really good player right now. He looked freaking phenomenal tonight. That's not going to last for forever. The window starts in 3 years. Hopefully it lasts 10 years after that. It's all about maximizing our chance to win a championship within that window for me.
Yeah. And this is I mean, we talked about this all season, but I keep trying to think of a way to put it. Because I saw Donkey in the chat earlier. I'm not making fun of that's literally his name in chat. He said, "Why do y'all want to always trade our good players?" Okay,
Because
like,
I want great players.
but last year
That's the answer. I want great players, bro.
did we want to trade our good and great players last year? Like,
No.
we wanted to win, right?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't want to trade Jeremy last year, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
We wanted to keep
you
him.
could have made an
We
argument.
wanted to add to him.
Yeah, it would have been a good idea. But anyways, yeah, we had him and Dame, and we wanted to add to that. So, but once again, we have to stop with this mindset that, oh, we have these guys, we just got to keep adding to them and whatever. We are in a rebuild. Okay? In a rebuild, you identify core pieces that you want to keep moving forward. Okay? And we can argue all day about who those are or if we should feel this way about any of these three players. But Scoot, Anthony, and Sharp are identified as young enough and good enough, hopefully, to potentially be a part of our core moving forward, a big part. Like Oklahoma City identifies SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren as their core moving forward. They're not moving off of any of those three guys, right? So it doesn't matter how much they maximize their value, because the more they maximize it, the better their core is and the better they're going to be, as they've shown this year. Like Minnesota's not trading Anthony Edwards if he's like having his best season ever. So there are players that you're not going to trade. Now, maybe at some point, one of those three, if they have really good trade value, you think about moving. But for now, at the beginning of a rebuild, just months after we traded Dame, if you have people who are not part of a core that will be part of it for 5, 6, 7 years, you absolutely have to sell high at their maximum value. And if you do not do that, you are not rebuilding. You are trying to be mediocre, and you're trying to make this a situation where we are once again back to the same situation we were talking about for a decade with Dave, where we are right in the middle, making the playoffs every year, but not good enough to win, and then we don't have the assets to then go all in, or we have to attach picks to Jeremy to get off his contract or something at some point to make that all-in move. We have to attach an extra first or something, or an extra 2 firsts to get a player we want because the other team doesn't want Jeremy. And so at this point in the rebuild, veterans do not matter. And veterans, if they do matter, can be into the bench guys like Earl Watson for Dame his rookie year or whatever. And so you do not need veterans that play a lot. And you can get those guys. Like, I mean, this is just an example, but like if you traded Jerami Grant for Kyle Lowry and picks, like you still are getting back a veteran in Kyle Lowry, you know? He's an expiring. I mean, I don't know how good of a mentor he'd be, but you are getting a veteran back. And you have picks and stuff. And you can change out who the veterans are all the time or whatever. So at this point, Jerami Grant heading into this deadline, I do not believe his value, both in terms of how many teams would be bidding for him, that you could create some sort of bidding war like we did with Drew Holiday. The fact that so many of these teams have contracts right now that can match. Now, some of them do have contracts that you can match in future years, but that doesn't really help our flexibility moving forward if we deal them for players that are on contracts for more years than just an expiring. but there are multiple teams that do have expirings and assets that they could give us this year, combined with the fact that he's at, I mean, if he's not at his peak value, it's dang close enough to where you can warrant trading him. So, yes, you may be able to pull off a trade this summer. It may all work out. But the Pistons, for example, held on to Jerami through the trade deadline. They had a chance to get they were asking for 2 firsts or whatever. They apparently got an offer for Bojan Bogdanovic for 2 firsts last year and turned it down, if you believe those reports. And now, they'd be lucky to get 1 for him. And so I know Jeremy is a likable guy, and I've said this multiple times. I will always have a special place in my heart for Jeremy for being the one guy that chose to come and play with Dame and that wanted to be here in Portland, wanted to stay and all that. But that doesn't, we talked about this all summer with Cronin's got to make the best decision business-wise, not for Dame. Like, Dame's not going to be a Blazer anymore. We got to do what's best for the Blazers. What's best for the Blazers is moving on from him because he has been so good and because his value is high and because trading him will make this rebuild eventually easier to achieve a contending roster if we get the right assets right now.
Yep. So another factor of this, okay, so I'm going to tie a comment into this from chat. There's a comment. The same offers that are on the table at the deadline for Grant will mostly be there this summer. That's not true since pretty much every deal for Grant, every hypothetical deal involves an expiring contract at the deadline. Those guys will be free agents in the offseason and therefore not tradable. And it'll be much harder for some of these teams to even make a trade financially work within CBA rules in terms of matching salary, since they won't have the same amount of contracts to trade out for Jerami Grant. So that's not even true at all. And then the comment goes on to say, getting off his money this summer doesn't open up space to do much. Here's the thing. We're going to be buttoned up against the luxury tax as constructed. And we're not paying the luxury tax. Like, we have to figure out a way to actually shed money to duck the luxury tax. Okay? If you trade Grant for an expiring, not only do you duck the tax, not only do you get back good assets for the future, you also open up your full mid-level exception to maybe get a good role-playing vet that everybody says we absolutely have to have. And then you get the best of both worlds. Like, that's the thing, is there's an opportunity with getting off his money that will present itself beyond just the assets that we get back for him. So that's not true either, saying that it doesn't open up space to do much. Because right now, we aren't going to pay the tax. We are not going to pay the tax. The same guy says every deal doesn't have to be expiring contracts. If we trade them for the same amount of contracts, we're still butting up against the tax, or we're still into the tax. Jody Allen is not going to pay the tax for this team. She's not going to pay the tax next year. She wouldn't even pay the tax when we win it. What makes you think she's going to pay the tax when we're a lottery team in quote-unquote rebuild mode, but like kinda, not really, but kinda? Coming off a season where we're going to lose 50 games. Like, she's not going to pay the tax. Okay? So you want expiring contracts back. You want to trade Grant now for expiring contracts so you can save money to not pay the tax. If you trade other contracts, maybe you could have cap space. But the bare minimum, you get under a tax and you have an MLE compared to doing Lord knows what to shed money to duck the tax this offseason. Like, so that's why expiring contracts are important. That's part of the reason why it makes sense to trade Grant at this year's trade deadline. Also,
the new CBA teams that aren't in the tax have much easier trade rules, can sign players. You can start using, I think it starts this offseason, if I'm not mistaken, where you can use trade exceptions now to sign free agents. So it's possible we make a trade and maximize a big trade exception to get some free agent trading or signing ability. And then also We already started to see it last summer, but there's going to be a lot of teams moving forward that have aging rosters or whatever that have to get off money, not only because like in the past it's been simply like Golden State's owner like does he want to pay for the team, and the answer has been yes so far. Like he's willing to pay whatever it takes. But now it's not just a matter of does the owner want to pay for it. It actually restricts you from making certain moves, like picking up a buyout player and things like that you can't do if you're over a certain amount of salary. So there's actually teams that have to cut a contract and need to pay an asset to get rid of contracts. And it's going to be that way moving forward, especially as teams these first few years of the CBA where teams have to kind of navigate that. They haven't had years to prepare for it. It's only been 1 year. So there's going to be opportunities to do that. And I think for a rebuilding team like Portland to miss out on some of those opportunities simply to keep Grant moving forward or any of the veterans they keep, I just don't understand that logic. We want to be the team that capitalizes on those things.
Yeah, you not only do you miss out on those opportunities, you miss out on the future assets that could be huge in terms of building our team when we enter a window where we're competitive, where we're trying to make the playoffs, where we're maybe winning playoff series. Like, you want to maximize that window, and you want to maximize the opportunities that come along the way to accumulate assets that can play a factor in that window compared to just hanging on to a guy until he's 34 when that window starts. You know, it's all about maximizing that window. And even if you move Brogdon for an expiring contract, right, and duck the tax, there is enough nuances, and there's new nuances, such as what you explained with the traded player exception, being able to sign free agents with a TPE, essentially. There's enough nuances where you would probably want as much space as possible. Like, it doesn't make sense to take back a bad role player on a $20 million a year contract in the offseason, hypothetically. You know, nobody in mind here, but just hypothetically. I'd rather get an expiring now than like a mediocre role player that doesn't really matter for $20 million and have that sitting on our books, taking away potential opportunities to capitalize on a chance to accumulate assets for the future. So it's all about maximizing our ability to be flexible, to capitalize on asset building opportunities, as well as get assets for the future that won't be depreciating assets like a 30-year-old Jerami Grant. He might be the same player the next couple of years, but I don't expect us to be competitive enough for it to really matter the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. You know, so at the end of the day, like, it's all about you want as many assets as possible when that window opens, and or you want to be able to draft or acquire young enough players that can be a big part of that window once it arrives, once it gets here. Because Jerami Grant is not that type of player. Unfortunately, he's too old. If he was 25... it would be a different conversation. If he was doing this at 23, we'd be saying keep him.
Yeah.
You know? So it's nothing to do with him not being a good player. It's nothing to do with him at all, other than the fact that, unfortunately, he's 30 years old and we're in a rebuild. If we were a playoff team, I'd say keep him. You know? It's all situational.
Yep.
It's all situational. So it's all about yeah. I don't really know how else to explain it in a way that it makes sense to people.
Well, I think part of the problem is Jeremy is a really likable guy. And, like...
didn't we learn this past summer? We can't think about things emotionally, right?
No,
like,
yeah, I know.
It's all a business.
I'm just saying, I think people really respect Jeremy. They really like him. I think he's so chill and so just... I don't know. He's a unique guy, and I think that plays into it a lot. Like, people just like him as a person, and this organization likes him a lot as a person, and I don't blame them for that. But yeah, like you said, and I said earlier, that shouldn't factor into whether you should trade him or not. And above all that, it shouldn't also factor into whether you are exploring what the market is for him, so that this summer you can go back to those teams that maybe still have some of those assets if you want to trade him or whatever. But yeah.
But why do people keep saying moving him this summer isn't going to hamper anything? Randy, if they're not seriously considering listening to any offers at the trade deadline, what makes you think that they're looking to trade him in the offseason? If they're looking to trade him in the offseason,
Right.
why wouldn't they actually seriously listen to offers at the trade deadline?
They're not looking to move him. It's not like, oh, we're going to wait till the offseason to move him. They seriously, they would not move him now because they don't want to move him, not because they're waiting to move him at a later time.
Yeah. So
we always do this. We always do this, man. Norm, like, there's no negative value. Like, what was Cronin supposed to get for him? Rocco's a negative value. What were we supposed to get for him? CJ, negative value, negative contract. What are we supposed to get for him? Whatever. Like, what? We finally have a chance to trade someone at the peak value they could possibly have. It's like,
yeah.
but like, you're going to defend this guy for getting absolute crap in most trades because what was he supposed to do? He had no leverage. Jody made him get out of the tax. There's nothing he could do. But now we have a situation where we can win these trades and be like, dude, Joe Cronin kicked some butt this year, dude. He kept Jerami, he kept Thybulle, and look what that turned into. He got this great value for him. He only gave up this for Jerami and got this in return, and blah, blah, blah. Why do Cronin supporters not want that opportunity to talk about how great he maximized the value of all these people? I don't understand, Tori.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, let me just say this. We're just going based off what's reporting, saying if it's true. Okay?
Right.
Okay? Don't forget that caveat. Because Gregory has a comment. It says, Cronin is extremely smart. He isn't going to say, we are trading Jerami, LOL. It's about leverage. Jerami is probably going to be traded. Like, I agree with everything other than maybe the extremely smart part. But, yeah, like, he's obviously not going to come out and say, we're trading Jerami. Everything sounds like he's just not going to, like, they just want to keep him. Like, they do not want to trade him. That means the deadline and next offseason. As Eric said when he first brought this up in the stream, it could be a smokescreen. Okay, so if it's a smokescreen, great. That's probably how you play it. The smart way for Joe Cronin and Blazers front office to play it is to play it in a way where we're mad in January because it sounds like they're not going to trade him, and then that helps them get top dollar at the deadline. That's the thing. If they trade him for top dollar, if they trade him for a really good trade package, and they create a bidding war because of this stance that they're taking on him, and use it to create leverage, I'll be the first one sitting here giving Joe Cronin a round of applause on February 8th on trade deadline day. Okay? I will be the first person to say, well played, good job, great job. Like, we set the standard beforehand for a reason, you know? So yeah, no, 100%. Like there's a caveat with it.
Yeah.
I can't with disingenuous arguments that literally just look to disagree. I can't with it anymore because it's literally people that just do not listen. They just try and find a way to disagree.
There's two things at play here. One is, if it's a legit smokescreen, Joe Cronin's a genius, and if he maximizes his value, I will sit here and give him props for doing so. I am not looking like Randy does to us. No matter what we say, he's going to argue with it and think we're stupid or whatever. That's fine for him. And people think that's how we feel about Joe Cronin. Now, I will never forgive this organization for what they did this past offseason, but I can also disassociate that with what he did moving forward in terms of the Drew Holiday trade and what he gets back from the Malcolm Brogdon trade, if that's a good move or whatever. I will give him credit when it's due. But if he's sitting there and people are calling, just like with the third pick, and he's not seriously listening to offers or being like Masai Ujiri and saying, yeah, we'll trade Jerami for 8 first-round picks, good luck trying to get that, and like he's never even entertains a realistic offer for Jerami or gets a bidding war going, like you said, then he's a horrible GM, and that's like completely stupid to not even explore those things. So, like there's both things at play here. If he is seriously like just turning down everyone saying Jerami, we're not trading Jerami, unless you like give us like Rudy Gobert type package or something, then this guy is not a serious GM. And Randy Powell brought up the Chris Paul trade. So OKC got picks. They got 2 first-round picks. One is only, or both of them were only top 4 protected, and one of them could be like the 6th or 7th pick in this draft this year coming up that they could get from Houston. So not only did they get picks for getting Chris Paul, they were a freaking playoff team at the trade deadline. They were not, it doesn't matter if they didn't trade him at the trade deadline. They made the playoffs. They almost were a home court advantage team. Like that's how good they were that season.
Yeah. And
then they maximized Chris Paul. Did they say, "Oh wow, Chris Paul got us to the playoffs. We're gonna keep him with Shea and move forward that way"? No, they freaking traded him anyway after he led him to the playoffs. They traded him. And that's so your example is exactly why we need to trade Jerami, because we do not, it shouldn't matter the results. And that's exactly how OKC played it. They didn't care about the results and that you wanted to keep Chris Paul because he helped you make the playoffs. They made a business decision and it worked out really well for them. And
keeping him through the playoffs probably increased his trade value too.
Right.
We ain't gonna be in the playoffs.
One season he went from a guy who they had to pay to get rid of in Houston, and then they got assets back. They got a first-round pick, and they got Kelly Oubre, who they got a first-round pick for from the Warriors. And so they got pieces from that trade. I don't understand.
You know what we're all forgetting is like the people, Eric, that like they need Jerami Grant as a veteran presence. We can trade him in the offseason. Guys, are we seriously under the assumption that the Blazers aren't going to shut Jerami Grant down for the final month of the season? Like they've
done. Might still be around the team, but yeah.
So okay, so he's not playing, but like we have to have Jerami Grant sitting there on the bench, like maybe occasionally saying something to the players. That's what coaches are for. Like, what are we doing? That's what coaches are for. It's like coaching. You know what's funny is like coaching. There's the narrative that like coaching doesn't really have an impact at all. It's all up to the players. But then it's like we need this veteran to coach up the young guys, and it's like super crucial and more important than anything else. It just doesn't make sense. Like we're probably gonna shut him down the final month of the season. So the deadline is February 8th, bro. We're probably gonna shut him down early March. Okay. The All-Star break is after the deadline, so you're talking about 3 weeks where he's playing is going to be the make or break thing for our young guys? Jerami Grant playing with our young guys for an extra 3 weeks is going to make their careers? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. If our young guys need him to play an extra 3 weeks with them to make their careers, they're probably not going to be what we hope they're going to be. They're probably not going to live up to our expectations then. Like, we're probably screwed. Like, then the window starts in 5-6 years if our young players are that desperate to have him around for an extra 3 weeks. But I mean, our young like legitimately, it's hard to say that some of these young players are better than they were like a month ago. Like, we went on a stretch with Jerami Grant where we would go on a 7-game road trip and we lose 6 out of 7 games by at least 21 points and everybody looks terrible. Like, in growth isn't like a linear curve anyway. So 3 weeks is pretty meaningless, man.
No, that's crucial, man.
Yeah. Dang, guess we know what's going on in the locker room to know the impact he's having. You're the one that's trying to act like he's having this huge, insane impact without being able to explain it. That's the problem. Everybody's like, they need Jerami Grant's veteran mentorship for the entire season. Okay, like for what specifically? Just to show them how to play. Okay. So, but when we're tanking, like that's not a good developmental opportunity because we're not playing veterans. Like Sharp broke out last season when we started tanking. How did that happen when we weren't playing veterans? Then, you know what I mean? Sharp should have sucked. Sharp should have regressed when we started tanking last year. He shouldn't have broken out and looked good and taken a step where he started playmaking more. He started scoring off the dribble more.
Why did he look worse playing with the veterans?
That should have been impossible because he had no veterans around to show him the way. Elizabeth Allen, exactly. The guy literally cannot make a post without being some 5th grade smartass reply. Yeah, it's just like, it's not a conversation. And that's the problem. It's just not a conversation. Like, it's frustrating. Guys, take a guess in chat why I'm like worked up about the Jerami Grant thing. Because it's nothing against Jerami Grant. Great player, good guy. I think he'd enjoy being a part of a playoff run. Like, I want to trade him to a winning team and he can enjoy a playoff run. Like, can you guys guess specifically why something like this upsets me? Eric, after they guess in chat, I'm going to let you guess, and then I'm going to tell you what the answer is, because there's a specific reason why this upsets me so much. Chat's cracking me up. Chat is cracking me up. Get specific with it, Eric. Why do you think this upsets me so much?
What? You mean them potentially keeping Grant?
Them, like, not even, like, if they're not even willing to really listen to offers for Grant.
Well, I mean, I think you said it earlier, but my guess is that if they... Okay, so the offseason they trade Dame, right? And they go into rebuild mode. Or they should have. And I think your frustration is you want to win a championship, and the organization that you support seems more content on just being good enough to keep fans interested and coming to games than they are actually having a plan moving forward to build a contending team.
Yeah, like more so, you know what it really is? For years, they've been unable to commit to a single direction, whether it's go all in and win or go all in and rebuild.
Yeah.
For years, they are so uncommittal towards a singular direction. That's what really bothers me. Like, I wanted to take a chance around Dame. You know, like going all in for Dame, trading the 3rd pick, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? That didn't happen. They're going the rebuild route. What did I say? Okay, well, I want to fully commit to this rebuild. The problem is the only thing they've committed to is being in the middle. And that's what not seriously listening to offers for Jerami Grant is. It's committing to being as mediocre as possible. And that's what really frustrates me. Commit to a direction, please, for once.
Yeah. Go all in with the youth movement and the rebuild. But I seriously think, I mean, looking back on it now, they had the best of both worlds. They never had to commit or pay huge money outside of maybe you can make the argument the first year that Jody took over and then bleeding into the next season. But since then, they got to ride the backs of Dame's popularity or whatever, and kept fans interested by having a competitive team. And then, they hadn't had fans turn on them at all. And I think they're kind of feeling that a little bit now, but I also think that Jerami is liked by a lot of fans, so that might be factoring into it. And that's my problem too, is they they let emotion bleed into those decisions, but then when it comes to Dame, and that's why Dame was so pissed this summer, because he felt like they lied to him, and then the one person that they should have had all these things applied to didn't. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah. Gotta love these comments. Man, it's almost like we're rebuilding, just not doing it the way you want them to. The problem is, rebuilding, you're committing to a window that's like 3 to 10 years from now. Okay?
Yeah, you can't be like...
Well, what I was going to say, it's like, if you're not seriously listening to offers for a guy that's going to be 30 in March, you're committing to keeping him. You're committing more to right now and next year and the year after that than you are to the window that's 3 to 10 years from now. But when you're in a rebuild, everything should be geared towards 3 to 10 years from now. It shouldn't be geared. We suck. We're the 5th worst roster in the league, right? Like, why are we committing to right now by keeping them? Like, why are we committing to right now? Because that's what it is. You can trade him for assets that will be a huge help 3 to 10 years from now.
Well,
3 to 10 years from now, he's going to be 33 to 40 years old. He's going to depreciate. Like, legitimately, why would you, if you're worried about being rich, or having as much wealth in 3 to 10 years, why would you keep a depreciating asset compared to selling it? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that's my problem, is they're not committing to any specific window at all.
Well, this whole
If this
thing,
is true.
If
they commit to a window, I will cry tears of joy.
Yeah. Scootin' Sharp, Randy says, what if they break out next year? Okay, so you have all these assets then. Why don't you go and get a player that fits with them, so we have 10 years, a whole decade of an ability to have a team that can gel and not have to worry about, well, Jerami fits for part of that decade, but then not the second part of it or whatever. Why wouldn't we want to use those assets to get someone that they identify as someone who could be there that whole time?
Yeah. Because that's fully committing to that window of time.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to getting somebody who's going to retire in that window of time and decline before that. Like... Anyway,
we have some donations.
Yeah, we got a donation from MGJJ123. Thank you, man. $10 donation says, maybe Portland management, which is awful, thinks we can stay in the middle and keep Grant. We have no other professional teams to cheer for. They just want to sell tickets. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me.
There's a lot of truth to that.
It's kind of sad, man. It's kind of sad. Like, they're okay being mediocre if they can sell tickets, right? Like, I hate that. I want this team to contend. I don't want to just settle for being mediocre. That's the biggest problem. I said that in previous years when I wanted us to build around Dame. Like, I was tired of just settling for mediocre signings for, like, yeah, we're going to sign Mario Hezonja to a minimum contract and have him in the freaking rotation. Like, that was just committing to being mediocre too. We're going to be playing Nick Stauskas and Anthony Tolliver on opening night. We're going to build our bench with those guys. That was committing to not being a contender because we weren't doing enough to build around Dame. The thing is, everybody was on the same page with that, but it goes the same way when you're trying to rebuild. You don't play it in the middle either way, in my opinion. You either do one or the other, and it's like the one silver lining with trading Dame was like we're gonna be able to get out of the middle.
Tori, I I just need to I need to try to talk out loud through this logic, okay?
Okay.
All right. This person is actually saying, we have to keep Jerami Grant right now to help Scoot and Sharp be good. And what if they're good next year? But Jerami Grant, along with Damian Lillard and Jaylen Brown, would be terrible and would not be good and wouldn't work out. So keeping Jerami Grant along with Dame and Jaylen Brown that's not when you keep Jerami Grant. Like, that would never work. But keeping him now with Scoot and Sharp, that leads to a contention. Like, what the heck are you saying, bro? Like, I don't like what does that even mean? Like, I'm not even saying you're wrong or whatever. That makes no sense, dude. Like, it makes no sense. Like, you're just trying to hate Dame, and you hate us because obviously we like Dame or whatever. But like, dude,
it's just yeah, it doesn't make sense, man. So
like, if Jeremy's that good, we should
Grant
be a championship contender if we got a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, if Grant is that helpful for young players, I mean, we should just fill out our whole rotation with veterans, so they can all have such a huge impact on our young guys. I think people overestimate the impact that veteran players have over like a 1 month period of time. You're supposed to have coaches. Coaches are supposed to be the most important part in terms of developing
Chauncey's a former player
players.
too. Scott Brooks is a former player.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And that's the thing. Just like we get our logic constantly questioned, we'll turn the tables too. It's a two-way street here. Guess that's why Haslam got his jersey retired. What does that have to do with anything? He didn't play. They couldn't trade him for anything. Why do you always have these horrible comparisons? Is Jerami Grant Udonis Haslam now?
Why don't we get a minimum? Udonis Haslam for the last 5 or 6 years has been on a minimum contract, barely playing. Like, why don't you get one of those guys? I agree. Yeah. We need one of those guys on the bench. Completely agree with you. Now you'll find a way to say that that's not what you meant, because I agree with you. But that is exactly been our point this entire time. Yeah. You can find our Udonis Haslam to be our mentor off the bench that doesn't need to play, that's on a minimum contract. Exactly, Randy. Thank you.
Just like Dame credited Jared Jeffries and Earl Watson. Those guys weren't guys in the rotation. Those guys weren't guys that we could have gotten a bunch of value for, but we were just hanging on to for the hell of it. Those guys were on minimum contracts, exactly. And Dame credits them a lot. So, yes, you need some sort of veteran leadership in the locker room. Have it be one of those guys, not the guy that you could get a bunch of assets back for and who's making $30 million a year over the next 5 years.
Let's pay Udonis Haslam 5 years, $160 million to come out of retirement.
Does Haslam want to play again? I know he, played his entire career for the Heat, which is impressive for a role player, but we got the Robert Williams III disabled player exception. Maybe we can trade out Grant, get back a little less salary, and then we can use the disabled player exception on Udonis Haslam.
And Iguodala was like that for the Warriors the last couple of years. And that's something that's really hurting them this year, not having him on their bench. I mean, there's a clip of him getting off the bench, going up to the coach's box past Steve Kerr and calling Andrew Wiggins over. This is while he still played for them. And coaching up Andrew Wiggins on the sidelines and stuff. You need those guys. They don't have to be a starting power forward that scores 37 points and plays 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's all about It's all about the assets you could get back for Grant. If we can get anything back for him, then it wouldn't really matter if we traded him or not. But trading him for an expiring will open up opportunities this offseason, will give us more flexibility, and will bring us back, in my opinion, a decent haul of assets. And that will do more for maximizing the window of time where we have a chance to be competitive. Therefore, that'll make it more likely for us to win a championship in the next 10 years. Therefore, I want to do it. Is the easiest way I can explain it. Like, not some arbitrary, like, his veteran mentorship between February 8th and early March when they shut him down to tank is, like, so invaluable that it outweighs the assets that we get for the future. Like, it just doesn't make sense, man. It just doesn't make sense. I wonder if there's an example from history, Eric, where like a rebuilding team kept a guy like this and then he played his way out of any value. Like, I'm sure there is, but it's hard to, think of.
It's kind of happened a lot.
I mean, it might have happened with Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, they probably could have gotten back more for Siakam and OG Anunoby had they traded them early, and they sucked, but they didn't want to fully commit to a rebuild. So they waited and waited and waited, and then they got back, in my opinion, cents on the dollar. And now they're not in as good of a position as they would have been if they just traded them earlier when the writing was on the wall that they needed to rebuild.
Yeah. Jack with the $2 donation. This is reminding me of the debates with Portlandia. Yeah, it definitely does.
Shout out to Duffif Widivi with a $10 donation. Says, I struggle with mental health and thoughts of suicide, but whenever I listen to you guys, I feel a lot less lonely and sad. Thank you all for saving my bad days. Yeah.
Wow,
definitely.
Man.
Yeah, definitely take care of yourself, man. Take care of your mental health. That's important. Thank you for the donation.
And, I mean, anytime anyone, including you, man, are thinking like that and need someone to talk to, my messages, I'm sure Story will say the same thing. Always open, man. Don't be afraid to reach out if you need to talk to someone. Always here for that if anyone needs that. And I'm sure a lot of people in chat would feel the same way.
Yeah. Yep. I want to win a championship, man. I'm tired of mediocrity. I'm legitimately tired of it. I am full willing to deal with 12 and 29 seasons. Seasons where we're going to lose 50 games. We're on pace. This is halfway through the season. We're on pace to go 24 and 58 this year. I am willing to deal with another season where we're just looking forward to the draft lottery and then the draft. Like, I'm willing to withstand the torture of that if on the other side it's a contender. And if the organization is doing the best job that they can to put a contending team on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And not waste all the pain that we're going through. But 5 years, for this 5th season we've had the channel, we've won 3 playoff games. We've won 0 playoff series. And we've picked 0 directions in terms of how we want to improve that. Like,
we thought we had picked a direction.
Yeah, like
when Cronin took over.
That's why when people say, "Man, you're negative," like it's because of those reasons. It's because of that. Like, if we picked a direction, build a contender out of this, guys, like, I'll be sitting here giddy as hell after each win when we're winning 55 games in a season and looking at a contender. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's what I want. I want it bad. That's where a lot of the frustration and the emotion comes from, okay? The emotion that a lot of people will criticize us based off of, but it's because we're fans. A lot of people say we're not professional because of it, but we've never tried to be like professional media because we've always tried to be people that are relatable as fans, but then just speak our mind and have a legitimate conversation about things. So, end of the day, the win tonight was fun.
Yeah.
I want to win in May. One of these years, I want to win games in May.
Hey, man, congrats to Rune DKS KS that he's able to afford 4 different $5 donations.
Yeah, Eric, I don't even know if it's like real.
Yeah, it's like not even going through.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe if it is, great. It's just I don't see why somebody would donate $5 4 times to say Wojbon. You know, like just doesn't make sense to me. So
on his 18th different account.
Yeah, I don't get it. So anyway, yeah, I don't trust it that it's legit. So.
He's been doing it for 7 or 8 streams now.
Yeah, I don't understand why, but whatever. So at this point, just gonna ignore it, like, and hide it, because
yeah,
it doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, end of the day, man, I hope they. Here's the thing: even if they don't want to trade Grant, they should listen to every offer. They should see what's on the table. They should do some of their own outreach and try and negotiate deals to the point where it's really in their favor, and then see if they want to take it, even if they don't really want to trade him. Because initial offers aren't as high as teams will offer. You know what I mean? There's a negotiation period where you get what the team is paying, you raise that price. Right? Like, you don't just cut off negotiation from the start, because then you're not going to hear what teams' best offers were. So if they're not seriously interested in trading him, and they sit here and like, oh, this is their offer, and be like, no, that's not enough. Sorry. You're not doing your due diligence in terms of seeing what the best possible trade could be. You're literally shutting down the negotiation part of it that will get you teams' best offers. So even if you don't want to trade them, they should negotiate like it's possible for teams to get them, hold strong in negotiations to utilize their leverage, and see what the best offers are out there.
Yeah, I mean, someone calls you about Grant. I mean, this happens in, like, the mock-off season. Like, I was the Utah Jazz, right? But I went into it thinking I did not want to trade Lauri Markkanen. So people contacted me about him, and I was like, I'm definitely up to hear what you have to say, but just to let you know up front, I'm kind of basing my whole offseason around him, and probably it would take a lot to move him. And then teams would still be like, well, what if I give you this for him? Would you consider it? And I'd be like, well, that's not enough for me to get off my whole plan. So if you could add this to that or whatever, then come back and talk to me. And then sometimes they would, and sometimes they wouldn't. It doesn't mean I have to accept that offer if they come back with more. But, I mean, we literally know now that negotiations with Miami, whether you wanted them to negotiate or not, that's not the point of what I'm about to say. We literally know that they didn't actually have normal negotiations with Miami and cut them off. So we don't even know what Miami would have offered. And anyone who thinks they know doesn't know. Now, we know what Miami's potential max offer could have been, and we can argue all day about whether that was worth it or not. But Joe Cronin did not engage with Miami enough to know if they would have given more if he negotiated properly. And so I'm worried that that's when you hear reports that Dallas called Portland and Toronto for Siakam and said that both of them were unrealistic for them, or that they couldn't get whatever offer from them, or they didn't have a realistic offer for them. That's fine if they were like, this is what we have to offer. We're not trading Lively, so we can give you, Omax, these contracts, and the 2027 first unprotected, and maybe some pick swaps or whatever. And if Portland's like, that's not enough for us to trade Jerami, then that's okay, I guess. And then they'll say, like, if you want to offer Lively, come back and talk to us or whatever, which also isn't realistic. But, like, if there was some sort of negotiation but, like, come back to us later, that's fine. But if Portland was just like, oh, nothing you have is ever going to interest me, so don't bother. He's not available or whatever. And then, and so, like, Dallas offered all this stuff. And, so, yeah. I think there's two ways to go about it. If he's truly acting like Jerami is not available, it's a mistake in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. How's Deadspin still in business, but Sports Illustrated isn't? This timeline sucks. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, my bad, Gregory. You're fine, bro. Yeah, I thought you were questioning us, and that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I mean, if it's a smoke screen, it's the right smoke screen, so he could be playing his cards right. I just don't trust him, and I've been hurt the past 5 to 8 years by their unwillingness to pick a direction. So I am at the point where I'm just... If you're going to post fake Woj bombs, like, at least make it so that they're possible under the CBA. Like, use a trade machine. Like, it's just really bad trolling in chat. Like, we could tell literally immediately based on the contracts, because we know contracts, so you fail. Good try, though. Yeah, it could be a smokescreen, but we've seen for years this organization not pick a direction, and... that's what I expect. I expect them to continue to play the middle ground and end up not maximizing their rebuild because of it in the long run. You rebuild for the long run. You don't rebuild for the short term. Keeping Jerami Grant is a short-term move compared to trading him for assets that are long-term assets. Yeah. Who are some of the guys that you would like the Blazers to get? I would love to get an unprotected pick in like 2027 to 2029 range from a team that you can have some confidence might be really bad by then. Okay. We have Milwaukee's 2029 first. We have Boston's 2029 first, both unprotected. Okay. If you're able to get like Golden State's unprotected 2029 first, I know they've traded.
I can't trade that. Yeah.
So they trade 2030. So if you're able to get like Golden State's 2028 unprotected first, and then maybe
swap in 2029,
unprotected right to swap in 2029, where you can swap the worst out of those 3 picks for Golden State's picks, you're basically just maximizing the chances that you have a really, really good pick in that range. And then if you can get, I think Kuminga might be a little too much on top of that to get back, but like if you could get somebody that's like a solid player, young prospect right now, you're maximizing your chances. I think Kuminga will be better than Grant in 3 to 4 years. Maybe 4 years. 3 years might be a little too soon, but Kuminga should be better than Grant in 4 years. And then you also have potentially a really good pick in 2029 because of it, or 2028 because of it. That could be a really good asset that you could package with some of the future picks for a star. Then you're really maximizing that window of time. In 2029, it's far down the road, but Scoot's only going to be 25. Sharp's only going to be 26. Those guys are is that even their prime yet? Like, prime starts at what, 27? Those guys still
I think it starts earlier now. I mean, but that was the old school thing, yeah.
Yeah, like they'll just be entering their prime.
Mm-hmm.
Barely be entering their prime. On top of like whoever we draft this year, whoever we draft next year, like the goal should be to have a really good young core and then have the assets to either draft such a good prospect if you get lucky enough for one of those picks to be really good, draft a good enough prospect to put you over the top into contention, just like, Chet is maybe a good example of that. OKC still has a bunch of assets. But Chet has made a huge difference for OKC. Or you can package all those picks and trade for somebody that's already an established star that becomes available. You can be in play for anybody that becomes available. You can make your version of the Pascal Siakam trade, Hopefully the core is better than Indiana's is right now, though. Like, that should be the goal. The goal should be to build through the draft, develop young players, and then hopefully build a team that can maybe contend on its own with a young core and then have a bunch of assets to put you over the top. That is the best way to try and win a championship. That equation involves trading Jerami Grant for like an unprotected 2028 pick from Golden State or from another team that's older, win now, so they want Jerami Grant and they're willing to trade away the future for it, but then once that future comes, could be really bad. Now, you look at Boston, like Boston could still be good in 2029. I mean, Milwaukee could find a way to be good in 2029, but if you had 3 teams unprotected picks in 2028/2029, you're just increasing your odds that one of those teams is going to suck. And one of those picks is going to be really, really good and help put you over the top.
Yep.
So, like, if it's Miami, for Lowry's expiring and an unprotected pick from them, like, they could be really bad by then. Jimmy Butler's 24. Now, Jaime Jaquez being as good as he is as a rookie, kind of, like, I'd rather have Golden State's unprotected first, but it's interesting. It's interesting. So, different teams' future unprotected first will be more valuable than others. Like Milwaukee's 2029 unprotected first that we have is more valuable, in my opinion, than Boston's unprotected 2029 first that we have.
I mean, SGA is 25, right? And look, they add lottery picks in the last few drafts. Casey Wallace is looking nice. Chet Holmgren's looking really good. Jalen Williams looks good. And so they're adding to it. Oh, shoot. What? Someone beat me to it, so by the time I hit it, unhit it, and I have to.
Good job, Trevin. Let's go.
Trevin beat me, man. But yeah, so I mean, is anyone saying that they wouldn't? I mean, you have to make the right picks, but wouldn't you want that exact scenario for Portland in a few years when Scoot and Sharp are like 23, 24 to draft really well and add some really nice young pieces to that? Wouldn't that be more fun than wondering how many more years we have with Jerami Grant being able to walk up and down the court?
Yeah. Yep. This dude says, "You're not dead when you turn 30. Ask Jeff Green, KCP, and Bruce Brown. And Bruce Brown is 27. Nobody's saying Grant's dead when he turns 30. He turns 30 this season. Yeah. He's still going to be good. It's about when he's 33, 34. Because that's like the first time that we're probably going to have any chance of making any sort of noise. And it's probably just winning a series at best. So it's not even contention yet. So,
and the thing is too, like, it's only this way with Grant because he's been good. He's been really good, and that's why you maximize him as an asset. If he had sucked this year and regressed back to like a inefficient shooter and all that kind of stuff, or played like he did the second half of last season this year, then I think, I don't know, maybe you don't get enough for him to warrant trading him compared to what he does for your team, or you don't want to attach an asset to it as like a negative value contract. But the fact that he's a positive value could get you something really nice considering the contract he signed and his age. That it doesn't mean we we hate Grant or want him gone or off the team or whatever. It's just in order to maximize the rebuild, I think it just has to be that way.
I'm muted. Yeah, nothing against Grant at all. Nothing against Grant. You worded it pretty well. Good player, man. Would be a really good piece for a contending team.
Yeah.
If I was some contending teams, I would be willing to give up a lot for him right now. The thing is, I wish we covered a contending team.
Yeah.
When we could talk about trading for players like Jerami Grant.
Mm-hmm.
What is your window to trade Grant? Realistically, you have one more year from today to get max value. I just think his value is at its highest point right now because the league is wide open right now. There is a ton of buyers, not many sellers, and he is arguably the best player that'd be on the trade market. Like, there's a lot of love around DeJounte Murray. He's a guard, right? For teams that need a forward, name a better forward that would be on the trade market right now. It's hard to find one. Siakam got traded. OG Anunoby got traded. So with all the buyers still out there that would have interest in a forward like Grant at this year's trade deadline to try and make a playoff push, this is probably the highest his value is going to be, in my opinion. It might be the same in the offseason, but I don't think it's not going to go up. So you might as well capitalize when his value is highest and sell high.
Yeah.
Also, you can trade him for expirings now. If you trade him in the offseason, you're taking on salary in order to match that is on the books for next season. So if we trade him for expirings now, that comes off the books at the start of this upcoming offseason. So then you have more flexibility under the cap. So it not only makes sense from a getting value for Grant standpoint, it makes sense from a opportunistic flexibility standpoint going into this offseason. Being able to capitalize on opportunities to take on contracts with assets, for example. So, yeah. I mean, you can still trade them in the offseason, of course, but it's just... Oh, man, my neck hurts.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I've just been, resting my arm on my armrest, and it's tightening on my neck. Yeah, so that's the timeline, in my opinion. Shout out Rip City Retro, $2 donation. Says, fun game, boys. New Rip City Retro's out. I have returned. Yeah, go watch Rich. Shout out to Rich. Thank you for the $2 donation. We need to get Rich on a stream the next week, bro, because I can't keep having this conversation.
Yeah.
We need some entertainment, bro. We need Rich to make some people laugh, make us laugh.
Ping pong balls.
Ping pong balls. Portland's only way. We haven't been able to play that. We haven't been able to enjoy Tankathon. That's the thing. The win was fun tonight, but then I was like, oh, no Tankathon because we only do it in losses.
Did you see the Nets blew out the Lakers tonight?
Yeah, the Lakers suck. The Lakers are...
And
See, that's an unprotected pick because they can trade a what, 2028 first? 2029 first?
It's 2029, yeah.
I mean, they're the Lakers, so they can always sign people, so that's risky. If they were a small market, you would absolutely do it given LeBron's age. LeBron could leave. They could legitimately suck in 5 years if you have an unprotected pick from them.
The 5 years prior to LeBron and the first year of LeBron and one since their championship, at least they've missed the playoffs. So it's not like they were terrible before LeBron did. They had the second pick, 3 straight drafts?
Yeah. And
so it's not guaranteed. I mean, it's a risk, like you said, but
yeah, even if they start rebuilding now, they owe unprotected picks to the Pelicans. So it's not like they're going to be able to rebuild in time. Basically, the Lakers will suck in 2028 unless they're able to have a couple miracle star free agent signings.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So...
Well, and also, the Lakers are desperate and dumb enough to give up a lot to get a player like Jerami Grant to try and salvage something for LeBron so he doesn't leave and all that kind of stuff. So you could probably get their 2029 unprotected and 2028 and 2030 pick swaps, or at least one of those two pick swaps.
And trade him one of our early seconds so they can draft Bronny and keep LeBron.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I mean, he's a guard, so it kind of sucks, but maybe you flip him to another team. But you could probably get Jalen Hood-Schifino as well. And so you get another young asset, and then you maybe flip him for a young forward or something.
Or even a Quentin Grimes, like maybe you could put Schifino for him.
Yeah, or just something like that. So, like, and I'm not saying you for sure do that or whatever, or that's enough, but I think that's the type of move that could turn into our kind of version of the Brooklyn Nets Boston Celtics trade.
Yeah, exactly. No, the Celtics, when they started rebuilding and started sucking, they should have hung on to Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett instead of trading them for unprotected future first.
Yep.
That became Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, by the way. They should have hung on to them. I mean, come on. Anyway. Brogdon will get traded. I'm not really worried about him. Could you imagine if they don't trade Brogdon?
Remember when we beat the Nets and the Pacers in back-to-back games in January, Tori?
Yeah. Oh, God.
We
better not
win
the next 2 games or else it's going to be a 4-game winning streak. Oh, no.
We went into... Well, don't we play the Pistons coming up?
Not soon, luckily. We play the Lakers next game, which the Lakers suck, so we might win. But then we play OKC, which we're not going to beat OKC.
Right.
It won't be a 4-game winning streak.
The question is, will we only lose by 43 like the first time or 62 like the last time?
I don't know, man. Like, all of a sudden we're competitive and playing hard again, magically. So, I mean, it'll probably be more competitive, but we'll see. It won't be consistent, but we'll see how long this little, like, spurt lasts.
The Jerami Jabari frontcourt duo changed the course. No need for moves.
Oh, man. Oh, man. We need that Golden State pick. Yeah, I mean, that'll be a nice asset to have for sure. Like, you try and draft the next Alperen Şengün. You know? Yeah, if we don't trade Brogdon, if we do nothing at this year's trade deadline, you will see us. I don't know. You might see me set my house on fire, like with my words. Thankfully, it's like at this point, Eric, I think there's like a 90% chance Brogdon gets traded.
Yeah.
It sounds like Brogdon's gonna get traded.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we only get like a second for him, then I'll also be pissed, you know. Got to get at least a first, okay? And if you get back anything else of value on top of that, then it's good. Okay,
Yeah.
if it's like a mediocre first, that's like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Anything more makes it good. If you get back a lot more, like if you get back 2 solid first, then it's great. So that is the barometer for a Brogdon trade. I like setting the expectation beforehand.
Yep. And, once again, in case you don't know, trade deadline's February 8th. Starting sometime, usually like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, we go live, and we're live all throughout the day till the trade deadline, about an hour until it's over. We react to every single trade. And it's a lot of fun. So please come and join us on that day. Thursday, February 8th.
Yep, there's a comment from Taylor Packers that says, did you guys notice that the cronies were all saying we need to keep Brogdon as a mentor at the beginning of the season, but somehow everyone switched up later, LOL? Yeah, so my question is what they want just based on what they think is going to happen? Like, now it sounds like we're going to trade Brogdon, so everybody's, like, accepting of it. But at the start of the season, there was a lot of people that legitimately wanted to keep him and said we needed him for his mentorship. Are the same people that are saying we need Grant's mentorship for the month after the trade deadline, also saying that about Brogdon, because Brogdon's mentorship for guards is probably more impactful than Jerami Grant's. And right now our core is 3 young guards. So where does the buck stop then? But basically, you know what it is like that means that we should never make a trade ever. Like, it's kind of what that comes down to.
As long as you win a game. If you lose every game, then you don't have that, well, we won that one game, so look how good we are.
Elizabeth Allen says, has the Cam Reddish Max burner been exposed finally, LOL? I don't know. Maybe it's the same person. I'm not sure. But yeah. Good old Cam Reddish. The Lakers are tired of starting him, I think, but they have nobody better to start. His defense has been good this year, but Cam Reddish still can't shoot the ball consistently.
It's been hurt, too.
Yeah. Played 33 games, 34% from 3. Hey, that's almost a career high. 39% from the field. He's 44% inside the arc. True shooting percentage, 51%, which is really bad. Offensive box plus minus, if anyone cares about that, minus 4.3. He's just a huge offensive negative, man. I will say this, we kept the right player between him and Thybulle, I think.
Yeah. Well, then he signed for a minimum. I don't think we would have had to spend too much.
Reddish did sign for a minimum.
We didn't keep the right player, because you know who's the best out of all of them?
Who?
Kevin Knox. What's up, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, he's been
a starter
this year, man. I don't know what got into him, why he decided now, I mean, it's probably just because he's playing for an awful Pistons team, but, normally you don't see players be so bad for 5 years, and then year 6 they turn a corner. But, I mean, he's just making more shots is what it is. He's making a higher percentage of his shots. He's actually been efficient this year. Problem is, earlier in his career, he just wasn't that efficient. Although last year, 58 true shooting percentage. Mm-hmm. He shot 61 true shooting percentage in Detroit, and then came to Portland 54%. That goes back to Detroit 61%. So I guess he just likes playing for the Detroit Pistons, I guess. He's the only player that likes playing for the Detroit Pistons. Thank God we're not the Pistons. Well, if we were the Pistons and kept Kevin Knox, he'd be balling out for us right now. But, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this stream has been an adventure. We spent an hour before we went in on the trade talk, so... Anyone who hate watches us looking for negativity to complain about probably doesn't make it through an hour anyway, so hopefully we don't have any raging comments tomorrow morning saying that we despise Jerami Grant, because we don't.
Nope.
But I'm ready for those comments.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. Truly Spencer says this was a fun night. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the stream, because sometimes, we go off on a tangent for an hour like this, and I'm like, is it actually enjoyable? I don't know. We just talk, so I don't know, but I do wonder. But you guys are here, so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Anyone have any life advice questions?
Yeah. I kind of don't want to wrap the stream up on a negative, I don't know, or I want to end the note. I can't even talk. End the stream on a positive note, hopefully where I can string together words properly. We didn't get into any Ayton arguments today, Tori. That's a win. Yeah, I mean,
you tried to bait him a few times, though.
He shot 6 for 15, and I didn't even really criticize him, Eric.
Yeah.
That's a win for Taylor. Ready for the game tomorrow, boys. San Francisco / Green Bay. I mean, yeah, we better, 9.5 point favorites. Just don't beat ourselves. Everybody's hating on Brock Purdy right now. The Brock Purdy disrespect is getting out of hand, Eric.
Yeah.
And Hoops Crush in chat.
Yeah, I dropped a link to the new episode of Hoops Crush that came out today if you want to watch that tomorrow or whatever. Much appreciated.
Shout out to Anthony. Bang Bang Niner Gang.
Yeah. Are you nervous about the game or?
No. I mean, legit, like their defense is not good. Just as long as we don't leave their receivers constantly wide open without a defender within 20 yards like Dallas did, we should be fine.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be able to get after Love, I think, a little better than Dallas did. I think we're going to cover better than Dallas did. And then offensively, like, they disguise a lot of their zone coverages pretty well. And Dallas is a team that relies upon downfield throws. I think we're just going to run over them.
Yeah.
Like, I think that needs to be the mindset. We're just going to run over you. Who cares if you disguise all these zone coverages if we're throwing it underneath with blockers for Deebo Samuel and he's going to be able to pick up 10 to 15 yards. You know, that's what the Niners do better than any team in the league. Mm-hmm. So, and we can run the ball. Dallas, Tony Pollard wasn't that good this year. I had him in fantasy. He was pretty brutal. So, I'm not worried for a playoff game. Like,
well,
I'm going in with a positive mindset.
Once again, if the 49ers can't beat the 7th seed with how this whole season has shaped up for them to make the Super Bowl, they don't deserve it anyway, and we're both cursed. So.
Yeah, then the Tory curse is the most real thing ever.
Yeah.
So, if you're a Blazer fan, you should be rooting for the Niners to win the Super Bowl so I can break the curse. So that the Blazers can finally do something. So, even if you're a Seahawks fan, you should be rooting for the Niners to break my curse. Because you don't want my curse on the Blazers anymore. My curse is tragic.
What do you say about Anthony?
What's up?
Causation doesn't equal correlation or whatever.
I mean, obviously it's like,
I know.
Superstition BS. But I don't know, when you're 0-5 in championship games and 0-13 when your teams make the Final Four, it's kind of, you start to question some things. If the Niners win this game, they'll be in the Final Four, right? Because they'll be in the NFC Championship game. So then they'll be my 14th team. And then if they don't win a Super Bowl, then I'm 0-14. Which is just kind of insane odds. Like, insanely bad luck.
And they'll be in it against either the Lions or the Buccaneers.
Michael
so
Slayton's,
weird.
Yeah. For real. Michael Slayton says, as a Seahawks fan, I'm rooting for the Lions. Sorry, Tori. That means you're rooting against the Blazers. In a way. If you believe jinxes or curses are real. Taylor's also cheering against the Blazers. Man, it's tough. It's tough out here. Rich. Rich, bro. Oh, we need Rich on a stream the next week. We're going to make it happen.
I mean, I have to say, yeah, I'm an obnoxious Blazer fan, I guess, based on these streams. But in terms of, like, 49ers or whatever, like, I don't think either of us are the fans that people hate, right?
No, not at all. Like,
I don't
trash talk
crap or anything unless
you know what's
someone...
funny? Is
Yeah.
I don't really trash talk other fan bases at all.
Yeah.
Like, even Ducks fans, after the Huskies won the Pac-12 championship, I was chilling. The only thing I said was to people that were, like, guaranteeing that the Ducks would beat the Huskies.
Brady.
Yeah. Who did it twice this year? Who did it twice? But, like, he didn't really talk trash during the game, so I didn't give him crap. Like, I don't know. We, like, agreed to be civil, you know. And then he rooted for Michigan in the championship, but that's besides the point.
Like,
There's
really rooted for.
Like, really root for the cheating John Harbaughs, yeah. Jim Harbaugh. Wait, I forget. Jim? Yeah, it's Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh's the Ravens coach. I'm mixing up the names. 3-letter J names. Yeah, so I don't really trash talk other fan bases. I don't even really try and trash talk, like, my own fan base either, you know. I just I want to
Well,
win a championship, bro. Like, my negativity is solely because I don't think this franchise is doing what they need to set themselves up to win a championship if it's true that they're seriously not listening to offers for Jerami Grant. Like, they need to fully commit to the rebuild. They need to fully commit to a direction in order to get to the point where they're in contention.
Yeah.
So that's it's frustrating. It's frustrating because that's what I want.
Yeah.
So trash talking is a fun part of sports as long as it's not super toxic, in my opinion. I mean, like a little bit of trash talk is fine. When somebody's season ends, like, I would not talk trash to them. Like, if a team loses a Super Bowl, or somebody's team loses in the playoffs, like, I don't know. I know what that's like as well as anyone, and I know how miserable that makes me. So I try not to pile on even, I don't know, Laker fans, I guess maybe I'd trash talk. But, and I used to trash talk a little bit more when I was younger, but at this point it's like, I'm not in position to really talk trash for the most part. So.
But you know what? Do you know who will get a ton of trash talk to them if the Niners lose?
Who?
You and me.
Yep. So that'll be fun. But, we just got to take it on the chin. Anyway. Yeah, shout out to any Ducks fans that were rooting for the Huskies. Like, I wouldn't have rooted against the Ducks for a team that was, like, cheating this season in Michigan. Like, it's just kind of weird. And if I was, like, I wouldn't have rooted publicly to Duck fans, like, yeah.
Yeah.
But, anyway. Take it on the chin with an eyebrow raised emoji. It's a figure of speech that's not sus, Javon. I think it's time for chat to go to bed, Eric.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
It's time for Eric to go to bed.
Yeah, thank you for the stream. Didn't plan on going 2.5 hours, but we're here now. We got another stream on Sunday against the Lakers. So speaking of trash talk, every Laker game, when we lose to them, normally there's a few Laker fans that come in here and trash talk because that's what they do. Chat's wildin'. Yeah, so post-game on Sunday. I think maybe Tuesday might be the day to try and get Rich on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if Rich is down after we get blown out by OKC. Or maybe we beat them. I don't know. Maybe we're going to go on a 4-game winning streak. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you as always. Appreciate everybody that's supporting the channel. Your guys' support means the world to us. And at the end of the day, we all want the Blazers to win a championship one day, even if we disagree with how they can best do that. That's where all our disagreements should stem from, is we all want this team to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's multiple steps they need to take to get there, and we're going to find out what the next step is in 3 weeks on February 8th when the trade deadline rolls around. Or maybe even sooner if they trade Brogdon or, heaven forbid, they trade someone else other than Brogdon before the trade deadline. So if they do trade Brogdon, we'll have a live stream as soon as we possibly can get it up. So stay tuned. And is there anything else you want to add, Eric?
No, I just appreciate everyone, like Tori said, for your support and for watching the streams. And if you don't mind, on your way out, leave a like. It's your easiest way and freest way to support the channel.
Yep. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your night. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you Sunday. And until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.